Hello everyone, welcome back to Day One Dev. Today we're going to talk about the entire pipeline, how this pipeline is going to be value added, especially when you're using JFrog CLI tool. So what you're seeing entire stuff is in pretty much in the detail about the pipelines. So we're going to talk about every step here. So what are the pipeline you're using, whether Jenkins or GitHub Actions, you're using Agro CD or Harness, what are the product you want to name it. Pretty much the same pipeline. So you can see here, when you start a pipeline, you're going to do some configuration of a setups, especially secrets, where I call this as access tokens or user ID name or password, or whatever you want to define it here, right? Now, after that, you do a JFrog config, where you're defining your JFrog environment, Artifactory environment, and Xray environment or distribution environment. Uh, then define your environment variables. I'll tell you this is based on every project. Let's assume if you are building a web application, you want to call that as a package category as a web. Or if you're building an internal library, just call as a library. I'll talk about this in a later stage, why this is important, right? After that, everyone knows that in a pipeline, you will be doing a cloning of your Git repository. Then this is exclusively Xray product. I'm calling this here. Everything you see Xray, it's all our Xray product. If your license does not have Xray, you can skip this step. So this is the first step where you're going to do audit. Once you clone it, you're going to do an audit. FOSS, which is a free and open source software information. Your configuration, if you are on a Maven project, you're just looking at all your third-party open source libraries, what all you have been downloaded and what kind of a vulnerabilities you have it. So before you build a code, fix all these vulnerabilities, then come to create your build where you're using a Maven clean install. If you are a Java project, if you are on a node, you can use instead of a Maven, you can define your npm commands here or yarn commands. Or if you're Python, technically you might not be building it or Node or Python guys, but you can compile, make sure that you do not have any compilation issues during the runtime. Then after that, you scan all where you're scanning your third-party libraries as well as your package libraries. So here you're not doing an dependency or interdependency libraries, but here you're doing all the big fat jar, everything is going to be done. So this is what the package does. Now let's talk about build info. The build info here, these are the steps which we recommend as part of your pipeline. You're collecting your environment variables. So this is also is going to be integrated here and all the packages. Then the VCS info is what are the Git repository? Is it internal or you're doing it the SaaS? That information is packaged to artifacts stating that this is a code of the artifact is driven from this certain code, right? Then you do a build publish. This build publish generates a JSON file based on this job name and build number. This will contain all the dependencies, interdependencies jar, and how your environment has been configured, everything. So once it's done, you're doing a build scan. This is where it's going to help you to create a JSON file out of this, which is technically your security team is going to consume this. All right. So you might have missed out here. So this is a pretty much Artifactory. You're going to do it, all this stuff. Now let's talk about, this is where we talk about a big picture of stuff where you're going to do all this information, how you're going to create your release bundle. Okay. So once you're done, you're going to come to a release bundle, and inside your release bundle, you're going to create a spec. First one is that means I can see here a sample I created. So let's assume you have a microservice, you have a web application, you want to create both of them as a one release bundle. You can do that. So it's an array here. You can see here, it's an array and add multiple job names and build numbers. So once you create a spec file, you're going to do a create build release bundle create. You can see here RBC. These are the parameters you needed. All right. So once you're done, that ends up in a new state in Artifactory. So from there, you're going to promote it to a dev environment. You're going to create a release bundle. As part of your deployment, when you're deploying to dev, you use this promote and put it in a dev state. So you're putting it here. So in the dev state, you don't need a spec here. All right. Now let's from dev. This is the dotted line I called out here is an optional. The reason I did optional here is if you're using, you can see here I'm querying the build and checking for package category, which we have set it here. So based on that, if it's a category equals a web application, because we have set it as a web, then I want to go after dev. I want to go to a promote to a QA environment. Then from there, I go to a prod environment, right? That's a generally standards. But if you have developed a library, internal library, technically you're not going to do a QA. The reason is once it's tested by unit test cases, definitely you want to put it on a prod because that library is consumed by web applications. So that way, when you release this library, they can consume it. And as part of that, you'll find the defects. You fix the defects and you follow this process. So this is where this parameters is going to help you to identify whether this is my library or web application kind of a stuff. All right. So then you promote it to QA and prod. This is where it ends most of your pipelines after you've deployed it. But if you're using distribution from after production, you can promote your distribution to edges, where if your edges are residing on different locations, or different origins, or different regions, all the stuff can be promoted. This is the final release of that, which can be used to deploying it to closest data center or closest cloud environment. Right. I hope you learned something new, and please subscribe to Day One Dev, and I'll get back to you with another video where we're going to talk about how to do this pretty much a similar pipeline using a Docker images. All right. See you in the next week.